Have you ever actually stopped to think about the sheer wild chaos of the human experience? I mean, we feel so much, literally all the time. We're constantly reacting to the world around us, right? Well, in today's Explainer, we're going to take that vast, swirling ocean of feelings and actually map it out. We're breaking it down into a clear, understandable framework. We're diving into a fascinating concept that attempts to structure the very core of what makes us human. It's like taking all that abstract noise in our heads and finally turning it into something we can make sense of and practically apply to our everyday lives.
Okay, let's dive into this. The spectrum of 7 human emotions. That phrase carries a certain weight, doesn't it? There's just a deep resonance to that number, 7. You know, it pops up absolutely everywhere in human history. 7 days of the week, 7 wonders of the world, and here, in our source text, it's presented as the definitive spectrum for our internal lives. It completely reframes our complex psychology. It goes from being this infinite, unreadable mess to a beautifully defined spectrum. It basically shifts us from the philosophical mystery of our feelings into a concrete, scientific reality that we can actually map out, study, and most importantly, understand.
So the source starts off with a pretty foundational reality. There are several types of emotions. But let's take a second to talk about the actual problem here. Having just several emotions without a map, it's exhausting. Just think about the sheer variety of what you can experience in a single hour. You get a stressful email, then a funny text, then you're stuck in a frustrating commute. Left unregulated or uncategorized, this continuous wave of different feelings, actually, scratch that, it's not just exhausting, it leads straight to burnout, confusion, and some pretty poor decision-making. We have absolutely all felt that emotional whiplash. When our inner world is just a giant blur of conflicting feelings, we aren't in control, we're just reacting. And that is exactly why we need a powerful system to organize all that chaos.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is what happens when we finally distill that chaos down. The source material dramatically shifts the paradigm here, quantifying this massive, overwhelming emotional spectrum into exactly 7 finite emotional states. 7! It takes the highly abstract nature of feelings and makes it completely tangible. To really grasp this, we need to dive into the details of what these pillars actually are. Let's start with joy and sadness. Joy is that deep, instantly recognizable driver of connection and contentment. It's essentially what tells our brain, hey, we're on the right path. On the flip side, sadness, which we so often try to avoid, actually serves a crucial evolutionary purpose. It signals a need for support, helps us process grief, and literally forces us to slow down and reflect. Then there's fear. Far from just being a negative state, fear is our core survival mechanism. It hyper-focuses our attention to keep us safe from imminent threats. By identifying these specific states, we suddenly have a vocabulary for exactly what's happening inside us. By stepping into this framework, we aren't just feeling anymore. We're decoding. We transition from being passive subjects of our own minds to active interpreters. It's a hands-on learning experience. Take anger and disgust, for instance. Anger is so often misunderstood as just pure aggression, but fundamentally, it's a boundary-setting emotion. It's the psychological equivalent of a firewall, giving us the strength to push back when our values or our safety are compromised. Disgust acts in a really similar way, but it focuses on preservation. It steers us away from toxicity, whether that's literally bad food or socially toxic situations. Recognizing anger as a need for boundaries, rather than just losing your temper, well, that's a real game changer for how we navigate conflict. It turns a raw, unpredictable reaction into actionable data.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because this is the ultimate progression of emotional intelligence. You move from step 1, simply recognizing the chaotic mix of your feelings, straight into step 2, deeply learning and applying the specific framework. Now, we've covered 5, but the spectrum is completed by surprise and contempt. Surprise is literally the mind's ultimate reset button. It's this brief, neutral state that interrupts our current thought patterns so we can quickly absorb new, vital information. Contempt, on the other hand, is uniquely tied to social hierarchy and judgment. It often signals a deep disconnection or a feeling of superiority over someone else. When you piece all 7 of these together, joy, sadness, fear, anger, disgust, surprise, and contempt, you aren't just looking at a list, no way. You are looking at the whole shebang, the complete control panel of the human condition.
Ultimately, this entire framework is an empowering invitation to look inward. We've mapped out the boundless human experience into these 7 core drivers. We've decoded the spectrum and basically given a name to the invisible forces shaping our days. So now that we've laid all this out, the real question isn't just what they are, but how they are controlling you. Which of these 7 distinct forces dictated your biggest decision today? Was it a boundary set by anger, a quick pivot caused by surprise, or maybe a connection driven by joy?
Mastering this structured spectrum gives you the ultimate key to understanding your own psychology. The control panel is officially mapped. Now it's up to you to take the wheel.